Hello, this is Taha.
This is Anaina,
This is Movie Masala.
and we're here to yap at you about films we've watched recently.
And today we're talking about Superman.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for
I don't
what
know if
some
it's a
might.
lot of
it's
fire,
it's a
but-
lot. Today, the Secretary of Defense said he was going to look into your actions. That's funny.
My actions? I stopped a war.
It finally came out. I was like so excited for this. And listen, my voice is already giving you a way of like what I thought about this film, right?
Yeah.
And then time me. Don't give me more than a minute. But like I am gonna try my best to like just fully tell you why I really was looking forward to this. Superman, for me, is like an immigrant character, right? He literally came from a different planet. He is an incredible big hero from a very small town with very humble beginnings. He is supposed to represent this insane human ideal of what human beings can be. The reason he's the man of tomorrow, he's because he has this incredible power, like is the most powerful being in the world, and yet still is the best human being in the world. That was what he has learned from Earth. There's so many parts of this character that I love dearly. It is because of just how human and how the best of humanity he is able to represent in so many different ways. Now,
You did that in under a minute. I'm very impressed.
thank you. That took so much self restraint. So, this film basically starts in the middle. It starts in mens rea. No, what's it called?
In media res.
Yeah, it starts from in media res. Thank you. Where Superman has stopped a war that he should not have been involved in. You already have these pre-established heroes that have already existed. He is already working at the Daily Planet. He's already been established as Superman. He's already dating Lois Lane. Basically, James Gunn just throws you in a universe that already exists and lets the story take its toll and lets you like kind of like understand where you are and like pick up from it. And I think it works. I don't think that is such a big issue. I do think there are parts where this gets a bit flawed and this creates an issue, even though there's no point of view character really. Like there's no character who's like, what's happening? Can you explain it to me? Everyone's just kind of in the middle. Yet I feel the audience is still able to keep up.
No, I actually didn't have as much of a problem with the in media res as so many people seem to have, because it just establishes the whole point of the film. The point of the film is not to introduce us to a new Superman. The point of the film is to introduce to us what Superman can be or what the essence of Superman is. And you cannot show what the essence of someone is if you start from the very beginning. You have to let them have had a certain amount of character development or certain amount of kind of time spent in their environment and society to be able to get to why they are who they are and why they continue being that or how they can go beyond that. Right. So I think that was a really smart move. I don't mind just being thrown into it. Like I have no idea, no investment in Superman. And if I don't have a problem being thrown in media res in a Superman film, then I don't think people need to be bitching about it as much as they are.
Fair enough. And I think what it also does is make this film feel so much more like a comic book to me. Like it feels like we're picking up an arc that is winding up rather than starting. And I think that helps. And I think that structure of the comic bookness, I don't think it's specifically comic booky is a bit of a vaguer way to say it. But I think it feels like a very specific type of comic book, right? And is trying to build a much more of a character take on Superman rather than a plot take on Superman. In that way, it does feel something like All-Star Superman, which James Gunn has talked about as a reference and like is one of the first things he posted about. And I think the structure of how the film is paced to me also feels like a comic book as well.
Yeah.
Because you first immediately start off him just on the floor and you don't start off in that same way. It does take its time with the plot. It doesn't feel like it's skipping to the action sequences and the plot is a way to tie the action sequences together. I feel all of the more character moments are what the film is.
No, I feel like the beginning really ties in well with like the end of the film, or I think the main spoilers or whatever, but the kind of proper face-to-face he has with the main antagonist.
Lex Luthor.
Yeah, Lex Luthor, yeah. Where he kind of goes like, I'm as human as everybody else because I make mistakes and I fall down, and etc., and I don't know what to do, but I just get up and do it regardless. Like, just get up and keep going. And I think the beginning really like sums it up really well. So what he does in the beginning is summed up perfectly at the end. So I think it's a great way to start the film. And it
Yeah.
sets it at a different tone as well. It sets it at the tone of this superhero is not above everything. The superhero loses sometimes, and you're here to watch this superhero who is as flawed and as like complicated as humans are, which I think, like you said, is kind of the essence of what you like about Superman.
Exactly. And you mentioning the end conversation, which I think is a great like thesis point for the film to discuss why these two characters are at odds with each other. And I think it speaks to one of my absolute favorite parts of the film. I think this is why the reason this film works so well is because the characters are so incredibly well done. Like, as a comic book fan, as someone who loves these characters, I will come to David Cornsworth's Superman and Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. But even like Rachel Brosnan's Lois Lane, Edie Gatty's Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, who I absolutely love. He's such an asshole and it's perfect. It is like literally perfect,
Yeah.
right? And also, especially Kyler Gizondo, who plays Jimmy Olsen. Every single one of these characters, even in small moments they have, really, really feel like their own characters. They feel like it's written by someone who knows them, and not
Yeah.
only knows them, but is trying to show you why he loves them as well, right? And the biggest two,
Yeah.
Percy, David Cornsworth's Superman. I think fantastic portrayal. I think he's done it so well. Like, credit to David Cornsworth. He does embody that like Superman, and I think he has a specific type of Superman. I don't think every Superman has the same thing, but at the heart, Percy, he is just the kindness he embodies, the humanity he embodies is perfect. I love the scene where he goes like, "Hey, look up," and I think that's great. That is exactly something he would say.
Yeah.
There's so many little lines he does and says, the ways he conveys those informations, his frustration that he has, the scene in which him and Lois Lane have a back and forth. I think it's such a great scene to establish Lois Lane, how she's like that plucky reporter, but also how he is trying to like portray this image of Superman, because he also understands his importance of like Superman being this symbol of hope.
Yeah.
And like him struggling to deal with these nuances because he understands that sometimes there are simple answers, and that being true. And I think he's just written so well. And I think James Gunn really showcases you the humanity and kindness that Superman and hope he should embody. And I love David Cornsworth's Superman, but I think I love Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor just a bit more. He's able to balance camp and this feeling of sinisterness so well. I think the best part of Lex Luthor is captured where he is sort of right. You have this person who is so incredibly powerful, and we're trusting him with everything. We are giving him so much fanfare, we don't even know what he's about. And that's a valid point. But his problem is not necessarily that Superman is being worshipped. You can see his problem is he's not being worshipped. And I think Nicholas Holt is able to play it well. He's able to enjoy it and choose scenery so well. And again, like you said, it's that end confrontation they both have when you really have those characters just shout those things at each other. It acts like a thesis point for both of their characters.
No, for sure. And I can see how you can kind of think of that like final conflict between the two as like anticlimactic. But I feel like there was no need for there to be like a big action sequence between the two. I think Lex Luthor needed to get the shit beaten out of him, and Superman needed to stand there and, yell at him. I think you're right. I think the characters are like the strongest point of this film, as well as like the acting. I think the acting was really, really great. And I can see a lot of people are like concerned about the different kind of tones with which, the DC universe or whatever is being treated. Because Zack Snyder had a very like dark, cynical, and like pessimistic tone towards these superheroes and characters. Whereas James Gunn, with his Guardians of the Galaxy, funny, silly, most things aren't serious take on Superman, can see how it can rub people the wrong way. But I feel like, again, it makes it closer to what a comic book version of this would have been. And also because comic books, like, you're meant to have fun with them. You're not meant to be like depressed when you read them. So
I agree. I think he's able to really imbue that, right? Although I will fully also admit, I think there is some immaturishness to James Gunn's writing that you can see in a lot of his properties that sometimes I do feel clashes with that, like more wholesome tone of the film. There are like some jokes or like some things that I feel like, did Jimmy also really need to walk through a street of prostitutes? I don't think that added anything. And I think it
Yeah,
just clashes with some of the tonal elements of this film and that harem joke, like I mentioned. But again, I think his writing really adds a flair to this film that makes it unique. And also, like, one of the biggest plot lines that people are talking about this film is the war plot line between Borevi and Jaranpur and the symbolism that represents.
yeah. And I'd like to hope James Gunn did that on purpose because we can all pretty well tell what that's an allegory for. Hopefully, it was intentional, but even if it wasn't, I feel like,
I would like to think he is.
yeah, but also it's a amazing way to like weed out who the Zionists and pro-Israeli people are, because no one ever said it was about you. You are the ones who made it about you by getting mad about the fact that this film is kind of portraying the United States as having such a
Yeah.
close allied relationship, corporations selling military weapons and partnering with the government, and the holding of anyone accountable is gone. And this country is kind of going rogue and invading other countries, and it's backed by the US and it's backed by US corporations and it has military ties and etc. etc. If you thought that that was you, and you got mad that you were being represented in that way, I feel like that says a lot more about, the people who are mad at this film for maybe representing pro-Palestinian sentiment.
Exactly. And listen, even if this is not a direct metaphor for the genocide in Gaza, I think it stands so easily true because this is not the first time something like that has happened where the US and its allies has invaded a country just for their own benefits and corporate interests, you know?
Exactly. It's just what's happening now.
Exactly. And look, I don't want people to like, as much as I love this film, as much as I think James Gunn is did a great job. Like James Gunn is like doing political messaging to spite the Zionists or whatever, because I think that like undercuts the more actual films being made that actually represent this. I don't think people are doing that. I'm just cautiously being like optimistic about this, that yes, enjoy it. Don't act like this is a summation piece to represent what it is. Use a metaphor like a metaphor, basically.
Exactly. No, and I fully 100% understand the point that this is the most like allegorically pro-Palestinian a mainstream Hollywood film can get in, the current climate. And note, I say Hollywood because there are people all over the world making films that are, like you just said, like directly about the Palestinian cause right now. But so I get the mainstream Hollywood, etc., bit. Again, I'm just like skeptical of putting meaning into James Gunn's hands when it can be taken away so easily as well. And I think that's one of the points of the film as well. I think maybe it's like Clark Kent's dad who says that things can mean anything. It's like up to you to do what you want with it. So I feel like we should listen to Clark Kent's dad in this film.
We should listen to Clark's parents because honestly, again, coming back, that is what makes him a human being. Those were the people who made him Superman. Other than that, he's just a superpowered being, but it's his parents who make him the human being, who make him Superman. I just want to finish off and like also just quickly going over. I think the action and cinematography are really fun. I enjoyed a lot of like I enjoyed Mr. T's like whole action sequence. It reminded me of the Yondu whistle sequence, and like James Gunn
That
has a
was very
tendency to
cool.
love. I love when he marries that the dynamic like music, yeah, the music with the action sequence. I think he does that really really well, and I think there are a lot of points where I really enjoyed the cinematography of this film. And lastly, I really hope this film does well. It's just simple as that. I think this film did open well, but I think it has good word of mouth. People are like wanting to go see it. I see a lot of comments of being like people also being happy. I think just to end it, after the film, I have an earworm stuck in my head, which is just I'm a punk rocker. Yes, I am. And just an ultimate smile pops onto my face because I think this is what that film is. You know, I ended this and I was like, yes, this has flaws. I woke up in the morning being like, it has probably more flaws than I realized. but it made me smile so widely. It made me feel nice. And I think that's perfectly what this film should have been. Okay that it's not perfect, because I think it's just so wholesome and heartwarming that it just wins you through. It just like Superman, it just wins you with its charm and heart and kindness.
For sure, I agree. If there's any reason anyone should watch this film, it's if you just want to go into a film, laugh a little, have a good time, watch some cool fight scenes, watch an adorable dog.
We didn't even talk about the dog.
Have
The
a,
dog's great.
have a good, yeah. And yeah, just like have a good time with a character that's meant to represent some of the best parts of humanity. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So those are our thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. This podcast is produced solely by us with musical assets from Pixabay. See you again next time.
Bye bye.